Tom, let's press record.
This is Nick Robinson for Cottingham TV, interviewing Edward Hart, prospective MP for Halton Price and Howden. Edward, thank you for attending at such short notice.
Thank you for the invitation.
And we're quite excited now. This is only, I believe, 10 days or less than 10 days left.
And we've all shattered.
You've all been rushing around, have you? And,
yes.
And mingling. First of all, let's start with something that's dear to your heart, I know, the NHS. Could you explain to us how you intend to restore public faith and also actual support for the NHS?
Well, the first thing that we need to do is to actually repeal the NHS and Social Care Act, because from April next year, any contract that's worth over £600,000 to £25,000 will go out to tender. The NHS has been removed as the preferred provider, so it opens the NHS up to lots of different private companies. Already we've seen £30 million worth of contracts go out to tender within the Hull and East Yorkshire areas. As trust that's already happened. We feel this is building in fragmentation into the NHS, and we're also concerned in terms of the staff, in terms of the terms and conditions. We do wonderful things every day, so we need to treat them right. So that's the first thing that we would do. There is a funding issue now. I know lots of figures have actually been bounded about, but what we have costed is that we will put 2.5 billion into the NHS, funded by a mansion tax, the banker's bonus tax, and a levy on cigarette companies. This is just the start, because the NHS will probably need more, as we know. The Stevens report actually said that 20 billion needs to go in, but that's taken into account, 8 billion needs to go in, but that takes into account the need for £22 billion of efficiency savings. So we talk about 8 billion, but actually that's not enough. We've got an older population, we've got more people living longer, which is great, but we need to work out how we're going to fund the NHS for the future.
Now, Britain's problems. You're standing for more compassion and fairness, I believe. And your phrase,
Yes, well, I feel that the most vulnerable in society have been penalised for the mistakes of others.
And by this we're referring to falling wages and 0 hours contracts, for instance.
Yes, not only that, I'm most concerned about the benefit sanctioning situation in this country, where very vulnerable adults are being left bereft of any state support because they failed to turn up for an interview, say, or they filled in an application wrong. But some of these adults require support to actually get to these appointments, and some of them actually just cannot work. The people with acute mental health problems who are being sanctioned by the DWP, in my view, completely unfairly. And I believe as a compassionate society, as a decent society, we should be looking after these people. They are not to blame for the financial crisis that happened in 2008.
Yes.
In terms of the falling wages, yes, there has been a falling. Average wages have gone down over the course of the last Parliament. That is a problem. Because yes, we are now seeing some economic growth, but it's not been shared out equally. 0 hours contracts, another massive problem as well. It affects a lot of workers. A lot of workers in the care industry have been affected by 0 hour contracts. People looking after vulnerable people in the community. And again, we want to ensure that they get the best quality care. We want to look after the carers.
Now I'll come to the carers in a moment, but I think one of the original reasons for having 0 hours contracts was to try and get work to be divided up amongst as many people as possible when early on in this current coalition's government period. Do you accept that we have a need to keep people engaged in?
The trouble with 0 hour contracts doesn't guarantee anyone any work. You could be stood by the phone for days waiting for work. So people, often these people on low incomes who get these contracts. And you need to be able to budget. When you're on a low income, it's very important that you can see where your finances are going to be going over the next few months. 0 hour contracts don't allow people to do that. So people are in and out of work. The other problem you've got is a an unresponsive DWP, Department of Work and Pensions, because people are going in and out of work. Whilst when they lose the work, that's it, they're losing the benefits, then they've got to reapply, and this is how people end up resorting to food banks. 1 million people in this country last year resorted to a food bank, many of them working. So 0-hour contracts just are not the way forward. Yes, maybe part-time work and you use your tax credit system to top up people's wages, but 0-hour contracts is not the way forward. Maybe as a short-term measure, perhaps for students over the summer, perhaps that could be possible. But as a way of actually living, it's just not sustainable.
Yes, I take your point. Having been involved myself on occasion in the past, we've all had students to make do on during difficult periods and between jobs. What I'd like to do now, realising time is a little bit limited, is to talk briefly about the police commissioner and the role of our police commissioner. Do you think that his appointment was a good one?
No,
Do you think that the police commissioners per se are a...
The Labour Party policy is to actually abolish it. We think the money should be actually used at the front line and the elections for it, and it's another tier of bureaucracy we feel that could be reallocated to the front line, because we have lost community support officers. If the Tories get back in again, we stand to lose another 10,000 down the country. We've pledged to safeguard that, because I think the police are so stretched at the moment. A lot of crimes are actually going unreported, as previously.
Yes, I believe you were saying in your election lead,
and I don't mean
the lack of reporting.
That's right, and I don't mean to cast any sort of blame to the actual police force. I just think that they're simply struggling, and they're struggling to cope with what they've got to do with fewer people, as are, of course, nurses, teachers, and many public servants.
See, I was attending a meeting somewhere else, and the issue of cameras and surveillance, for instance, one of the PCSOs, I believe they're called, the community police officer, was explaining that to have a camera with adequate definition and surveillance would require back office people that filled up the police station with people watching television cameras instead of getting out there and
that's
interacting with real people in the actual community.
That's a very relevant point, because I think community capacity, building your community capacity, building your communities is so important. If the police become somehow distant from the community, it's not going to do their work any good at all, really, and it's not going to build faith. I think people like to see police around.
Yes. Well, I'd like just to hand the floor over to you for a few minutes, just to explain your strategy first hand and how you would best tackle the local issues if elected and the national ones. So really, it's over to you.
Right, well, that's quite an invitation. Well, what we do need, certainly, is a stronger Labour group on the East Riding Council. At the moment, I do feel that things are too dominated too much by just one party, and that's not good for any political sort of situation or in terms of policy making. I think we all need to be held to account, and no one's got all the answers. There's room to learn from each other. So a stronger Labour group, so we need to elect more Labour councillors for the East Riding during these elections to do that. Alex earlier has talked about flooding. Nationally, it's Labour's priority in terms of the economy to deal with things like climate change, in terms of decarbonising electricity supply by 2030. We've also got a climate change summit coming up, and it's very important that we have a party in power that takes it seriously. And I'm afraid many Conservatives don't, despite David Cameron's previous pledge at the last election. Think Green, vote Blue, or whatever it was. There's lots of Tory MPs, for instance, are anti-renewable energy and wind turbines, and we feel you've got to really maximise renewables. Locally, in terms of economic infrastructure, I think we've got to get behind things like Siemens. We've got to ensure that kids leaving school have access to apprenticeships so that they can go on to exploit opportunities in green technologies. As a government, we want to create a green investment bank so that we can exploit these new opportunities in green technologies, and that sort of works quite nicely with apprenticeships. A lot of local people could benefit from that. My theory is, of course, and on the macro scale, is the European question. We pull out of Europe, how is that going to fare with these companies investing in Britain? And how is that going to affect young people coming out of schools and universities? So it's a lot of it's national stuff that links into local stuff, as you can appreciate, and that's what we really want to push, and that's why we're working for as many Labour councillors locally on the local council, but also a Labour victory nationally, so that we can work together to provide more opportunities and provide security and better care for our citizens.
Right, well, this is Nick Robinson for Nottingham TV. Thank you very much, Ed.
Thanks for inviting me.
Coming on.
Thank you.